So one of the most important things with back rehab that we always reference is breathing and ribcage involvement around how it moves, influences motion through the spine, how it allows us to actually open up a stiff hip and a stiff back if we aren't really able to build a lot of confidence with bending down and extending and moving. So this is all about the 3 best exercises that we use that focus on breathing control, learning how to breathe through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. 3 exercises that allow us to build confidence on the floor, and then into half kneeling and then into standing. And these exercises are always prescribed from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3, and often or not are really helpful to manage quite severe pain if you wake up with a bit of stiffness, if you bend over and you just have an awkward catch and you hurt yourself. These are the type of exercises we would prescribe for an acute back problem as well. If you've watched our first video series, you would have noticed that I use an exercise called the pelvic tilt drill. And that's all about being able to influence how the pelvis and ribcage moves, especially as an exercise when we're in a lot of pain. So if we had a gentleman or a female come in with a severe back issue and they can't really do a lot of motion, the safest position for most people is on their back. The ground is a good safety net for the nervous system. We don't really have a risk of something scary happening, so the nervous system feels quite safe on our back. So the exercise that we always use really early on to build confidence, to settle pain, and to ultimately just figure out where our safest range of movements are, is that pelvic tilt drill. To look at it in a really, really simple way, where the pelvis and ribcage influence motion, the ribcage and pelvis are going to want to move into these planes of motion when we flex. So basically, as we flex forward, we want to create an ability for the ribcage and pelvis to create that motion. Often or not, what tends to happen is the ribcage doesn't really kind of move. The pelvis will do a lot of the work for us, which allows the spine to, in essence, want to do a bit more. The spine won't ever really round, which a lot of people think. What it will do is it will just kind of stay flat, and then muscles around it will just get really, really pulled and lengthened in a way that they can't control, which is often not the most pain that people feel. So if I can have a rib cage that's malleable and can create this motion in flexion, then we're on for a really, really good result. If we can then also create the same motion with extension and overhead reaching, that could be a shoulder press, dumbbell press, reaching for something in the cupboard. Having the option for those 2 joints from the pelvis and rib cage to create space for the back is really, really valuable. So exercise 1 is of course the pelvic tilt drill. So all I'm going to do is demonstrate the cues and the focus point here. So say for example, you've got quite severe pain and extension doesn't feel great if you really push your back off the floor. We're going to just figure out where our bearings are. So we're going to go slightly into extension, and then also vice versa to flexion where the back is rounded on the floor. We're going to just figure out what feels good. If you are very hesitant to touch your toes, and that's the type of pain that you have, you're not going to feel comfortable really tilting your pelvis. If you have a lot of pain going into extension, then this isn't going to feel great. So we're going to just figure out our bearings. So I'd always recommend 5 to 6 reps of just figuring out where we're feeling good, figure out where our limit is, and then all we're going to do then is learn about the breathing aspect of it. All I want you to think about with the breathing is I want us to really understand how the diaphragm moves. You can put your finger on your diaphragm. If you find your sternum, press straight underneath it, that's your diaphragm. What a nice drill is understanding how that diaphragm moves. So if I was to take a big, loud, big breath in, this won't move at all. This will get larger, and my rib cage will just expand slightly this way. What we want is, of course, this to move. So a really good cue and a really good drill that you can use is if you were to push your fingers down, pinch your nose, take a big inhale through the nose while you're pinching, and what you're going to feel is this going to move. Okay, it's hard to obviously see in the video, but you're going to feel this moving. Now obviously I'm not going to get you to teach the drill and learn the drill by breathing through your nose, but it's just a good awareness of how this actually engages. A second brilliant way of thinking about it is feeling as if you're breathing back into your head. So understanding that the nasal cavity doesn't go up to our brain, it actually goes up and then back into the back of our head and then back down. All I want you to think about is if you are going to keep your finger on your diaphragm and you're going to take a really slow, quiet breath through the nose and feel as if you're breathing into the back of your head. And then automatically, this tenses up, so I know that the diaphragm is now working, and then I've got less expansion here, which is a really good way I want you to think about it. And all I'm going to do is couple that with the slight tilt off the floor. So all we're going to do is just take a nice big breath in, and then I've got that working, nice controlled tilt. And for the exhale, I'm going to breathe out for roughly 6 to 8 to 16 seconds, as long as we can, through pursed, relaxed lips. So slightly pursed lips, That's how we're going to breathe out. And all we're going to do is just breathe in, fill up the lungs, breathe out. And I probably get to about 6 to 8 seconds there, so I have a little bit of work to do myself. But the idea is that is meant to feel quite tight and difficult to breathe and push. We want to keep that relaxed, and we really want to get used to doing that for long periods of time. Now, the second exercise that's really helpful to actually really understand the influence of how the ribcage moves, but in a side flexion position, is exactly the same breathing drills that we've just learned. So we're not going to change the inhale and the exhale drill. That stays exactly the same. Again, remembering that the exhale acts as a really helpful instigator for your nervous system to relax as it goes into a rest and digest phase, which when we take a breath in naturally is a big inhale. So when we take an inhale, naturally what happens is the heart rate goes up, adrenaline, blood pressure, it initiates that first stage of fight or flight, which again is the same biological response if I'm stressed and scared, so that if I just take a simple breath in. When I exhale, it starts homeostasis, so it reverses it, and it allows us to go into rest and digest, where it just drops heart rate, drops adrenaline, drops blood pressure. The more we're in that period of time, the more we can work within that exhale phase. The rest and digest phase is going to allow your nervous system just to chill out a bit more, which again is a lot of the time of settling pain. If we're relaxed and the nervous system's relaxed and it doesn't perceive threats, pain signals come down. Sensitivity is really important. Most pain that we feel is sensitivity, not structural. So if we can know that we can settle symptoms quite quickly with just simple breath drills, then we know that sensitivity is the main form of pain that we're feeling at the moment. So leading on to exercise 2, where we leave the ground, this is where we're going to focus on the half kneeling variation. So all we're going to be focusing on here is one arm to the sky, one hand on my rib cage. Now this is really important because I want us to feel, as we side flex this way, that when we exhale and we bend, I want us to feel as if that rib cage is just getting out of the way a little bit. So what we want to create is more space for the spine and for the actual lower back muscles to move for us. By feeling as if the rib cage is already moving for us, it creates more space. So for example, arm over to the sky, big long reach to the sky, nice controlled breath in, feeling as if my diaphragm's working, nice controlled exhale out. And then slowly control it back in. It's really important to try and hold the breath at the end of the exhale and then really control the inhale back in. Don't let that rush back in, because everyone is going to want to panic and bring the air straight back in. We want to show the nervous system we're in control. We have no threats around here. We have no concern of exhaling and holding it. We're not going to pass out. We're going to be just fine. So just to show again, nice long reach, nice big controlled breath in. Feel my diaphragm. Exhale. Should feel a really beautiful, nice stretch here and in this hip as well. And then always starting to feel is everything expand and open up on this side, and we're going to just repeat it on the other side. If there's a side that just doesn't feel great, same to the pelvic tilts, just find your bearings, find where you feel comfortable, find your limit, and just work to that limit, and then slowly lean in to where that previous limit was, and you'll start to build a little bit of confidence there as well. A similar exercise that's on the same par to the half kneeling stretch is a seated option. Now again, I went through this in the first video, but the seated relaxation is a really valuable exercise for a few reasons. One, it allows us to understand again the ribcage's influence of relaxing through here and then bending and flexing forward isn't a huge spinal task. It's actually an ability that if this can move and this can move and then this can move, then the lower back muscles generally aren't engaged, so they have to be relaxed. Again, it's an option for us to settle pain and build confidence. So again, putting your shoes on in the morning, putting your socks on, is often going to be a really common symptom that most people will feel. So we really need to respect an exercise that can add value in the morning, that you can use really simply. And again, just get you starting with a little bit more confidence to start the day. So the drill's really simple. Relax, chin, relax the chest, arms forward. Everything stays close to the body. We don't want to be reaching forward. We want to be staying safe within our center of mass. And all we're going to do is just the exact same drill. Breathe in, breathe out. You're going to find your bearings here again. Find where you feel comfortable. I feel as if I could put my hands flat on the floor. And all we're going to be doing here is just 2 to 3 controlled breaths in and out. The idea is because it's slightly claustrophobic, it's quite a stressful position for your brain and your body to feel as if it's in. The longer you can hold it, the longer you can control it. Again, the nervous system earns a lot of confidence that this, again, is not a threat, and flexing is not a problem for us to complete. It's just, again, figuring out controlled environments that we can learn and build, and then it will translate really nicely into the real world scenario of being able to function with thoughtless, fearless motion. And so finally, we're now on our feet. We've earned the right to progress from the ground to half kneeling to seated to here. Again, these variations can be used really early on for you if you're having a bit of discomfort, you've woke up with a bit of stiffness. These are the drills that I'd use with every single person, whether it's an extension-based problem, flexion-based, side flexion, rotation. They're all safe and they're all really valuable to do straight away. Now for this one, this is, again, something that I like using for people who struggle with this initial motion of being able to brush their teeth, wash the dishes, basic tasks that, again, might just need a little bit of leaning. It's just building on the seated relaxation exercise where we are, again, rounding, flexing, a slight bend through the knee. And all we're going to do here is combine the rib cage and pelvis, but also a little bit of force transfer. So again, I reference this to the first video in terms of pushing through the ball of the foot and how it adds value to create more load through the leg, so the back does very little on the way back up. But all I'm going to do here is have more of an emphasis of this rounded posture and this flexion-based tightness that a lot of people do feel. It's exactly the same, rounded, flexed, nice controlled breath down. This knee's going to stay bent the whole time because I'm going to need it to create force through the foot to safely come back up. So I'm going to control the weight down. Big, long reaching of the arms because it relaxes the rib cage, opens up the back as well. Nice big push, push, push. And you'll see that my knee stays flexed, my back straightens before my knee. So I know that this has done very little. These guys have done all the work for me. And this is going to transfer very well from, again, putting your shoes and socks on to even just being able to bend down to the ground and building confidence to come back up. Remember, 3 to 4 really basic drills that are rib cage or pelvis focused and why we need to really think about breathing. And then a little bit of dose of that force transfer, just how we use the legs to safely get us back from a stressful position to all the way back up.